Hey guys, welcome back to Insight Tennis. My name is Rick Oldroyd, president and founder of Insight Tennis, and I'm also the head pro. We are going to be doing a lot of new things with Insight Tennis this year, and you probably have noticed if you've checked out our website, there's a lot of new content on there, even some paid content. We've received a lot of requests from all over the world to put together some comprehensive training courses on each of the strokes in the game, utilizing the technique and biomechanics of the best players in the world. And so we've done that. We've just launched the first one, which is the Forehand Mastery Training Course, and that is available now. We're running a special promotion on it, and so if you want to find out more about it, I'll go ahead and put the link below this video. Also, you can go directly to the website and check it out in the store at insighttennis.com and learn more about that. We just also shot the two-hand backhand mastery course, and that will be coming out here within the next week or so. And so we are going to continue to do this with all of the strokes. We'll do one on the serve, one on the return, overhead smash, forehand and backhand, both one-hand and two-hand backhands. So watch for these things coming out. There's also a new course coming out on the mental game as well, strategy, tactics, all forthcoming. So a lot of new things happening with Insight Tennis this year, so check that out. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button so you get all of the new content as it comes out. Today's video, I wanted to do something that's kind of a follow-up on a video I did a few years ago on the Federer forehand. And no one can emulate Roger Federer. It's kind of pointless to try, perhaps. But what we can learn is some key things that he does that you might be able to implement into your game. I mean, this is probably the greatest forehand that's ever played the game. You got to put Nadal up there, and Djokovic has got a great forehand. But I think overall, in my opinion, Roger Federer has the greatest forehand ever in the history of the game. So fluid, so smooth. The things that we can learn from his forehand, I want to kind of talk about some key elements that will allow you to improve your forehand at whatever level you might be at. And so a couple of things on the Federer forehand. First of all, everybody kind of knows that he does have closer to an Eastern grip on his forehand rather than the semi-Western or a full Western. And this is fairly rare. There's not a lot of players out there on the tour that have that. There are some for sure. More common is the semi-Western grip. And probably the most common would be the semi-Western or some variation thereof. But first of all, Federer has essentially an Eastern grip, and the easiest way to find that grip is if this is bevel number 1, 2, 3. I want my index knuckle essentially on bevel number 3, like this, okay? My pad of my hand is essentially on bevel number 3 as well. That's pretty close to where he's at. Again, I'm not gonna, advocate that that's perfect or whatever. He might change it a little bit, but it's close. Okay. The next thing that you're gonna watch with Federer when he takes the racket back is he does not turn his racket like this right off the bat. Now, Nadal does. It's a little bit different backswing for Federer. I actually really like what he does. So what he does when he takes his racket back, if you'll notice, he takes his racket back here first. And then as he starts to rotate more, then his racket will rotate more here as his arm, obviously he lets go and his arm starts to extend out here for balance. Now, from this position here, very different than most players. Most players are going to continue the racket back and then from here release it back. But Roger actually does something very different, and this is something that we can all learn from because it puts his racket in a position so that it's easy to have the racket release back before he swings to contact. So from here, first of all, this type of a look instead of here, all right? And then he's coming. Now, what's going to happen when he lets go here is you're going to see that the racket will actually lower down into position like this, right? And as he starts to uncoil his body, the racket will naturally just seek this laid back position that you've seen him in so many times right here, okay? Now, as he comes back to contact, a couple of things that I want to be very mindful and careful how we explain this. You're going to see that the racket releases back, but as he's coming back to contact, last second, the centrifugal force catches up and his racket releases through contact. Now I'm doing this in slow motion, okay? So it releases through contact such that after contact his racket will often look like this. And let me show you that from the side so that you can see that the racket actually released through contact. Now, I am not advocating that he's back there doing this kind of a thing. Do not hear me saying that. You want to hold that position as long as you possibly can, that lag position, okay? So from the side would look a little bit more like this, okay? And then as he lowers his racket down, he's going to release his racket back as he starts to uncoil the body. He releases his racket back, seeks this laid back position, and as he's coming back to contact, he's holding that position, holding, and you're going to see that about right there the racket starts to release, and it releases out through the ball, okay? Beautiful extension out through the ball, such that after contact, sometimes his arm might be a little more bent than that, but you're going to see this position here with his wrist in this position, not that position, which tells you and is proof positive that that racket releases through the ball. So as he releases through the ball, once he gets to this point, all that's left is just rotation to finish, wrap and rotation to finish. Notice also that I actually, once I got to that point with my racket here, everything moves as a unit from here. It just rotates my whole arm, racket, and everything just moves as a unit to finish the stroke. That keeps me connected. That assures that I stay connected with my power source all the way through contact and even after contact. This is the power source. Okay, so one more time, guys, the things that we can learn from this. One, if you get your racket into this position or even this position, it's in my opinion, better to have it here because it's more natural to allow it to release back than if it's already clear back here. There's not a lot of room to have that racket release, okay? And this is, I believe, one of the reasons why Federer does this. I would love to ask him this someday, but so let me go ahead and show you again. So right here, notice the racket is facing the camera, okay? A lot of players turn it to the side. He does not. In the beginning, it's right here. And then it starts to turn to the side. And he lets go with his hand here. And I'm just going to assume, we're just slightly stepping into the ball here. Lowers the racket down into position. As he starts to uncoil his body, that racket will, now the left hand just naturally gets out of the way, seeks that laid back position. We've seen that many times. Now, this is the key thing too, guys. He keeps his head in the shot. If you took a picture of him at contact, you would see this. Notice my head is still, I'm watching contact. If you took a picture after contact, you'd still see this. He's still there, he's still there, he's still there. And finally about here, you're gonna see him come up with his head. That's one of the key things right there, guys. If you want to improve your forehand, watch contact and keep your head still up to and through contact. Extension out to your target. He's the best one to look at for that. The other thing I want you to take away from this is he hits through the ball. There's so much information out there that these guys are rotating their wrist and flipping it over at contact. There is rotation. Please do not hear me say that there is not. And if I'm closer to the net, there's more rotation, of course. But it's very, very deceiving. If you look at it in super slow motion, you're going to see, and I want you to watch as the racket comes towards the camera here, When he comes in, lowers his racket down like this, you're going to see his racket will release back like this. But then as he's coming back to contact, that racket starts to rotate back to contact, and it continues to rotate out through contact like this, okay? He does not come to the ball and do this kind of thing like so many people talk about, all right? So one more time. Racket here, here's the key things I want you to remember. Racket facing the camera in this case, and then about here, he's going to start to rotate it. Let's go with the left hand. Drops the racket down, just lowers the racket down. This is obviously slow motion. As I start to uncoil my body, what's going to happen here is my racket's going to seek that laid back position naturally because I have loose grip, loose arm, loose wrist. Once I get to this position, as I'm coming back to contact, I allow my wrist to stay in that position as long as I can, and centrifugal force catches up, and the racket releases through contact. Releases through contact such that I get in this position here. That's the next frame of reference. And then from there, just a good release and finish on the left side. So guys, go out and practice this. Let's learn some things from the greatest forehand probably ever. I would put Nadal's right up there as well. And I don't want to leave anybody out. Djokovic has got a great forehand as well. But in my opinion, overall variety, weight of shot, Roger Federer is the greatest forehand to ever play the game, in my opinion. So go out and practice this. Leave any comments or questions below. And thank you so much for your time, guys. As always, we'll see you next time out on the court.